Hello again, everyone. I'm Michael Price, the founder of MarketUS. We've been helping companies succeed in the government marketplace with VA and GSA contracts for over 33 years. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the end of 2019, the year in review. A lot has happened, and it would have taken 3 hours for us to go through everything. So my special guest is Eileen Kent, and she will be addressing some of these issues. We actually cut this list down, way down. So let's get started. Again, thank you all for joining, and hopefully you had a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah season. And we're going to show you a way to make 2020 even better. We got our first question already. Hold on just a second. Okay, well, hello, Michigan. Glad you could join us. I'm not even going to ask the funny question of how much snow do you have. So anyway, folks, if you've got any questions or comments or anything during the presentation, we've scheduled an hour. Hopefully we can get you out of here sooner. And I'll be sending you a link near the end for how to get all of the handouts. There's just too darn many to put into the handout section of the control panel. So I'll just send you a link. You'll be able to visit the link through our website, and you'll decide what you want to download, what you want to keep, what you don't want to keep. So let's get started. As I said, my special guest is Eileen Kent, who is on the line with us now. And I'm not even going to try to do this slide disservice. So Eileen, go ahead and jump in and explain why this is the most important step before you do business with the government. Even if you're doing business now and you have a contract, why is this so very important?
First of all, Michael, thank you so much for inviting me. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I can't believe it's just around the corner, 2020. Mike was kind enough to bring me on board here to chat with you, just to give you an idea of 3 ways you can get kicked off in your federal activities. Whether you hire someone like me or another consultant, it's always, when I look at doing business with the federal government, there's 3 things that you definitely need to do to probably catapult yourself ahead a year. And again, you can use another consultant. You could possibly work with your local procurement technical assistance center if they have elements of this. But the first thing is you need to get training, which you're here today and you're interested in doing. Basic federal sales training, understanding the customer relationship map, who's who inside the government, and what are the kind of conversations can you have with them. Also in the federal sales game, which is what I teach in my 3-step program, it's 3 2.5-hour teleseminars when I'm working with your team. But again, whether you use me or someone else, federal sales training needs to include what are the layers of the people you're going to be talking to inside the government, and especially, which is critically important, are those end users. So if you're in facilities selling construction or HVAC or furniture or something like that, you want to know the facility managers and the engineers. If you're in IT, you want to know the program managers and the project managers and the CIOs. If you're in medical supplies and services, you're going to want to know logistics at the VA, et cetera. So we need to kind of know who's the contracting people, what do they care about, who are the end users, what do they care about, who are the stakeholders, and who are the primes already there. Also in the federal sales game, How to Play to Win, when I teach it, I also include a section that describes all the different types of contract vehicles that your customers are going to prefer. So, for example, we'll break down GSA schedules. What are they? Whether they're important to you. Because in some industries, GSA schedules aren't used. And in others, they're used extensively. But we need to know what they are to start with, as well as IDIQs like a purchase agreements, GWACs, and other type of contract vehicles, as well as set-asides. So when I think of a 3-step situation, when I teach it, I have a federal sales game, How to Play to Win, 2.5-hour teleseminar. The next step is to be able to do a deep dive competitive analysis, looking at the contract data And who buys what you sell? That information is out there. Currently, it's that Federal Procurement Data System, which we're going to talk a little bit about today when Mike talks about some of the changes that are happening. But there's data out there. It's like a dream come true for a salesperson. But if you don't understand the data, it's completely confusing and you don't know what to do with it. So having an expert do that for you, do a data dip and kind of pull out what's been going on in your industry, who buys what you sell from whom and how, which will help you determine the top 5 agencies that you want to go after in the next 12 to 24 months to focus your efforts on. This will also determine, when I do this in my second step, I also determine whether or not you really need that GSA schedule. So if you have one and you've been losing sales or you haven't been getting anything on it, it might be because they're not using it. We're not sure unless we look at the data, but that could be a reason. Or if you're considering getting a GSA schedule and working with someone like Mike to get one, you'll be confident moving forward if the data shows us that they're using a lot of schedules to do what you do. Also, in that competitive analysis, we'll zoom in on who are the potential primes that you want to team with that might already have those contract vehicles, and you kind of, ride their contract vehicles to work with the client or team with them on site. So step 2, if you're ever going after federal business, is to understand the data, and which will help you get some direction on where you want to go in the next year. The third step, when I do my 3-step program, is a federal sales action plan. That's the third week for 2.5 hours, and we break down those top 5 agencies by location, by region. So, for example, if you were selling facilities to the facilities and you were selling to federal facilities, public building service is in regional offices, and they have service centers in each region. For example, I live in Chicago, and we have a regional office in Chicago, but we have service centers in Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago, Springfield, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and as well as in Cleveland. So if I were selling in my backyard, those would be the areas that I would go if I were doing facilities. That's just kind of an example. So we create a federal sales action plan around those agencies that buy what you sell and the primes that you want to team with. So I do this for companies one-on-one, and I perform it in 3 2.5-hour meetings. So I've got my hands in the data all the time. I've done it for all kinds of different companies. And whether you hire someone like me, or you try to do this yourself, or you work with a really advanced procurement technical assistance center that knows, what to do with this data, and they can point you in the right direction, you want to create relationships before any bid comes out. That's critically important, and these 3 steps are before that. So I offer this program for $4,995 until the end of 2019, which is a couple days from now, and I've got openings in February and March. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm here to be kind of color announced for today, to kind of give some feedback or fill in some corners if you have any questions. But thank you so much, Michael, for having me here. And I hope that whether you use someone like me or someone that you have in, a teaming partner or a salesperson that knows how to do this, these are the things you need to do to kick off your federal sales activities for the next year or two. So thank you, Michael.
My pleasure. Folks, I got to tell you, I finally looked at the end product of a 3-step. And the reason why I focus on this in the beginning, this is an update for 2019, and every single client that we have them listen to this particular pitch. I hate to use the word pitch, but this explanation. And the reason is many, many years, and we've been doing this over 3 decades, 33 to be exact, almost 34 in August, and people got their contract and failed. They didn't know what to do because the salespeople weren't trained. We've provided training over the years, and it was just a vicious circle, which absolutely is frustrating because you invest money to get your contract submitted, negotiated, awarded timely and correctly, and then it fails. And if you don't get your $25,000 in 2 years, you get kicked off and you have to wait a year before you can reapply. So now you're 3 years behind what may have taken you a year to get in the first place. So every one of our clients who has gone through this program has shown immediate success. We have some videos on our YouTube channel, town hall meeting with an actual customer. That's probably the best one we've seen yet. He went from $51 to almost $5 million in 3 years, selling stuff you can buy in the Home Depot section of, or the building supply section of Home Depot. So let's move on. We can follow up on this at any time and be more than happy to get you the contact info for Eileen. The biggest and the most controversial item on our update list today is the GSA schedule consolidation. We've passed phase 1, and I got to tell you, when I first started this in '86, we got a pack of paper with the huge industrial staples in it. Try to get those out with a non-industrial staple remover. Very difficult. We had to break it apart, and we'd have to make copies of it. I had a big Xerox 1075. We used to get a pallet of paper delivered to us. We had to provide 4 copies, 1 to you, 2 to GSA, and 1 for our file. It was a mess. So they've come a long way into where they've got it now under what they call category management. Okay, let's talk about phase 2, which is going to occur beginning sometime next month. Any of you who have a contract, let me know in the question section. Any of you who have a contract, you're going to get a mass modification. It is mandatory. Do not ignore that email. Execute it immediately. What it's doing is it's simplifying your terms and conditions of what you have in your contract. And it's only updating those particular schedule contract. You're going to get a new contract number too eventually. I believe that's phase 3. But you won't see anything any different. The difference is going to come in a few slides, which will kind of make you scratch your head and wonder what's going on. So after phase 2, there has to be phase 3. It's the most complicated because at different times, it's going to take a year for phase 3 to fully get instituted. And they're trying their best. And I've always said that the only thing consistent about GSA is inconsistency, and that holds true every single day. Anything that you've got on your contract is going to be migrated over to a new contract number. They'll keep the old contract number for a while, but that'll eventually drop off, and you'll have a new contract number, which will begin with a 47. I have no idea where the number 47 came from. Is that somebody's birthday, the age of the person that did it? We don't know. Doesn't matter, but they start with 47. At that point, you'll be able to start adding things to your contract or your contracts. We have a client in the past, Khaki, who now has, at last count, 34 GSA contracts. I have no idea what they're all for. I did the IT contract in '96. That's all going to get combined into one, and your SINs, which there's called a SIN because it is a SIN, special item numbers, will then get moved over into what we call categories. So they've done a pretty good job with making the crossover pretty good from what we're used to versus what they're going to now. Phase 3. This is the one that's going to be a mess. So I'll let you read about this yourself. Any of your IDIQs, BPAs, any of that will all get migrated in. This is the one that I'm really still scratching my head as much as I have delved into this, is that Duns has been fired after 20 plus 21, 22 years of holding the government and us as potential or current government contractors hostage. A new contract was issued to Ernst & Young, I believe it was October or November. And of course, we're now what we call embedding acronyms. SAM is System for Award Management. So they've now got SAMMI, SAM Managed Identifier. That is going to begin sometime probably close to the year end of hopefully fiscal year and not calendar year. But what you'll have is you'll have a new identifier, but you'll also have, still have your DUNS number. But the difference is when it comes time to update your SAM, you're not going to have to go through what we went through with one client a year ago, May. She ignored the email to renew her SAM record. It expired. She had to do the certified letter. Then in the meantime, waiting for the IRS, waiting for DUNS, waiting for this, waiting for that. 3.5 months we waited for her record to become current again or active. That's the good news. The bad news was GSA was holding her award because they do that one final check before they sign the award. Because it was expired, they held the award. They started a clock ticking. I think we got in 2 or 3 days before they finally rejected what we had spent 2 years working on. A whole different story on the 2 years. That's beside the point. But SAMMI is a welcome change to the debacles that we've gone through, especially the folks in my company, for many, many years. Here comes Amazon. Eileen, you know anything about the Amazon portal that is up and active now?
Well, thanks, Michael. I got a little demo of it a few months ago, and what they're trying to cut in on, everybody, is that micro purchase threshold, anything up to 10 grand. They're trying to grab as much of the simplified acquisition areas as possible. And that means that GSA, those of you on GSA schedule, on GSA Advantage, clients, companies that are using Amazon to get to the government to sell their products. But it's my understanding that Amazon tends to, take a much larger chunk of the business than GSA would. So it maybe behoove you to take a look at what Amazon is doing on their portal, and maybe take a couple products and put them through Amazon, that things that are not on your GSA schedule for now. And I bet a couple of you have already done this, and I've already offered your products through Amazon. But they're really trying to do the grab for the micro purchase threshold, anything under 10 grand for the government. And if you can imagine, they're moving their offices to Crystal City. They're building a train station. Can you just see the sign just pointed right at DC, brightly lit? Hello, we're here. So they're doing everything they can, probably to cut in on some of that GSA business. So if you're on GSA schedule, especially with this modification that Michael was talking about, you need to stay on top of several things. One, besides the mods, the mass mods, stay on top of your GSA schedule number change and the link to your schedule, and get that on your CAPE statement. Get that on your website. Constantly point your clients to your page on GSA schedule. And then, like Michael said, GSA wants to be able to use a commercially developed portal that's better than they think, is GSA Advantage. So who knows how that could affect all of our item numbers, how we list our products. The other interesting thing is, on GSA Advantage, you can't really list your hourly rates or anything. So I'm kind of curious on how they're going to do that. But the whole Amazon concept here is to go get those micro purchase thresholds. And remember, simplified acquisitions, all they need are 3 bids for anything over $25,000, and they can do a simplified acquisition without any contract vehicle now up to $250,000. So maybe they have some capabilities at Amazon to do some market, analysis for them. But the big thing is, from what I saw in their demonstration, was that micro purchase threshold, so that a buyer can just go to Amazon, do a quick purchase, whether it's on schedule or not, they can just throw it on their credit card. So you, as a salesperson, if you're on GSA, you need to have a louder megaphone, salespeople, than Amazon, to point people to your schedule. And then when they move the system over to whatever that new system will be, you're going to have to point your clients to your products. So you've got to stay on top of it. Well,
let me ask you a question, Eileen. let's say that, I'm with Homeland Security and I do an Amazon buy. How often can I do that without violating the Competition and Contracting Act?
I'm not really sure, Michael, because I think they have a special government page now, and they set up government accounts on Amazon. So they're tracking all that information, Michael, on how they're doing the buys, and they're able to provide them with the reports that they need.
Well, I got to tell everybody, I beta tested GSA Advantage in 1996, and it was a mess then, and it's a mess now. Good idea, lousy execution. I'd much rather shop on Amazon, which is what I do, even though I can walk across the street to Best Buy. I'd rather shop on Amazon because it's so much easier. The feedback's better. It is a wonderful platform. And if we can find a way to not offend, I love using that word, our schedule holders or contract holders, period. Anybody who has a government contract, anybody who is bidding in the government. Amazon could end up knocking a lot of these folks out of the ballpark, which is not fair because of Amazon, but fair is fair. Small business is king and large business should take a back seat. So let's move on. Now we're getting into some of the really cool stuff. The other one was just money. This is cool stuff. As of August, SBA changed the size standards based on receipts on your NAICS code, not whether or not I'm large, I'm small, I don't know what I am, I'm self-designated, whatever it happens to be. So that's a change that started, and we'll probably end up doing a webinar on some of these changes for what I'm showing you today. This one kind of hits me home because I happen to be a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. VA, I believe, and I'll share something else with you after I go through this, they will probably turn over their certifications to the SBA because the SBA does a better job. What I have a problem with is we have a client who is a service-disabled vet, and in order for him to do business with the VA, now the guy gets paid compensation every month by the VA. He's a not a Vietnam, he's I think Iraq veteran. Got a disability, gets paid for it, served the country, blah, 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 okay? The problem is, in order for him to do business with the VA, he has to go through the Center for Verification with the VA to do business with the VA, and they're paying him money as a disabled vet. I'll let you think about that a moment. I don't know why, but it's only if I want to do business with the VA, I have to get that certification. So let's see what happens when it goes to the SBA. Now, I said I was going to tell you something else. The VA is also considering, believe it or not, moving their 4 solicitations under GSA's e-offer. Let GSA manage the portal and they'll do the negotiations. Let's see what happens there. I've heard some rumblings about that a few times. Another possible change that we don't see listed anywhere yet. How many of you are in the HUBZone? You're going to love this part. Proposed rule is out. They're going to update the map every 5 years. I don't know what it is now, 1 year, year and a half, I don't remember. We did a webinar on it so you can see the map and you can see all that. The video's on the YouTube channel. You now have 3 years to move into your new HUBZone, whereas before you had to start out living in the HUBZone. So your certification remains for the year, I don't know whether it's for a year or for the remainder of the year if and when you have employees move out of the HUBZone. But the beauty of it is you don't need to prove compliance when you do a bid, if that rule takes effect. As of right now, you do. If the rule takes effect, you won't have to. That's good news for those of you who are still bidding. Service Contract Act, Health and Welfare Fringe Benefits. I found out about this in 91 or no, 92. I can't remember. It was in the 90s. We gave the government, it was a temporary help agency, we gave the government a very good rate, and a contracting officer came back and said, I don't see your cost factor in there for health and welfare fringe benefits. And I'm thinking, okay, in the IT world, which we had done predominantly all IT, that had to be included. He says, no, you have to take your rate and you have to add health and welfare fringe benefits on top of that. I said, well, that makes it higher than our commercial rate. He says, doesn't matter. We have to go by the Service Contract Act. So that took effect July 5th. So it's been increased. So you actually now your health and welfare rates are actually higher than what you had before. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we'll see. Trade Agreements Act. Everybody calls it the Buy America Act. That's what we call it. Everybody understands when it's Buy America, but it's not really Buy America. Trade Agreements Act. Just Google Trade Agreements Act. You can see the list of all the countries that are considered favored nations. The confusion is there's rumblings out there that say that, well, the percentage of contract content in a product is moving from 50% to 75%. Well, I haven't been able to verify that, but I will tell you what a program manager told me many, many years ago. If you have a product, for example, you have a desktop computer with nothing in it, you have a motherboard over here, you have memory over here. Are any of those products useful commerce by themselves? No, they must be put together. Where are they being put together? Are they being put together in a Trade Agreements Act favored nation? If the answer is yes, they now meet the Trade Agreements Act, Buy America Act standards of a product must undergo a substantial transformation into a new product of commerce to be considered manufactured TAA compliant, or most people want to be able to throw that Made in the USA sticker. We had a client, Hyundai, many, many years ago that moved their manufacturing and assembly from Seoul to Fremont, California, so they could put the USA sticker on. Been to the factory, saw the printouts, watched them do it. They meet it completely. So there's your Buy America Act possible confusion. Woman-owned small business and economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. Online certification is coming. You won't have to go through all this paperwork anymore. You can do it all right online. Don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. As I say it, it's probably here. Don't know. Multiple award contracts. There's a new emphasis. The government is now, or the agencies are now, especially DOD and such, are trying to concentrate more on, in order of preference, GSA, then all your other GWACs. Eileen, care to comment?
Well, I think that you have the multiple award contracts like GSA, Seaport, NXG, SOUP. Those are pretty popular multiple award contract vehicles. But some of the agencies had their own IDIQs. And for example, Homeland Security had their Eagle 2 contract. And now they're kind of standing that one down. And they said that they're going to be using GSA. They're going to use a couple of the GWACs that GSA offers, I believe, Oasis Alliant, 8A Stars, Vets 2. But they're also, which is very interesting, Homeland Security, they're going to be using Department of Health and Human Services MAC contract, which is CIOSP 3. So they're trying to use these contract vehicles rather than building their own IDIQs. So before, a lot of the agencies just had a lot of their own IDIQs for things, And again, this is different in everybody's business. So I'm just right now giving you IT as an example. Many of the agencies have their own IDIQs, but they're starting to lean on these multiple award contract vehicles, GWACs, that are already in place rather than recompeting their IDIQs. So you really need to stay tuned in your industry for this, or like in my second step in my analysis, let's take a look at what they've been using and see what they plan to use and who they plan to use, and then, lean ourselves towards those contract vehicles. But they're trying their best. And remember, and I don't know if this is one of your slides, Michael, but Fed BizOps is gone now, as you know, and we've got beta.sam.gov where proposals are being posted. And agencies like FAA are not going to post up there. They're going to use their own site. So there's a lot of fragmentation happening in terms of where the bids are going to be posted instead of one site. And so you need to really understand all the different multiple award contract vehicles or IDIQs or job order contracts or MATOCs, whatever it is in your business. You need to understand these clearly and know who has them. And if you don't have it, you might want to team with someone or get one yourself. But the emphasis here is ease of using something already in place rather than reinventing the wheel. And I just have one more thing to say about this, Michael. I don't know if there's a slide on this. GSA's salespeople, and this is straight from the salespeople's mouth, the customer service directors, they are actively going after those agencies and directly confronting them, saying, why would you recompete that IDIQ when you can use this GSA schedule or these GWACs? And if the client pushes back and says, well, I don't think there's anybody capable of doing what we do, the GSA, the service directors are putting RFIs up on eBay right now, asking vendors to respond. So if you're seeing more activity in RFIs, it's because the service directors are in the field knocking down doors and trying to get those buyers to drop their IDIQs and run it through GSA. And they're running the RFIs to prove to those buyers there's like 80 companies on the schedule. And if they don't have anybody, they're also seeking vendors to come in. So there's a major push that the GSA salespeople are doing as salespeople pushing the schedule, if the schedule is appropriate in your business. I just have to keep saying that. So yes, either get a contract vehicle, know what contract vehicles your clients are using, or team with someone who has one and borrow a lane on it.
Thank you. Dennis asked a question, is a GSA contract the same as an SBIR contract? The
Great
short
question.
answer, no.
No.
I believe the R means research. And if you are a research firm, then chances are you might want to look at a SBIR contract. Did I say SBIR? Forgot the I.
Right.
Rather than a GSA. But if you are operating in the commercial world and you're not doing just research, then seriously consider a GSA contract. Next question is, I cannot get VA certification now because they require all my, hold on, I'm looking for it, all my shareholders to do something. I can't quite read the whole thing.
Well, it sounds like there's a split that you got to prove your 51% ownership. I think
was it. If you're 51%, the rest of the shareholders don't matter.
Right. It's the proof of the percentage of how much you own the business compared to the shareholders. And
Very
your
good.
activity,
Okay.
by the way. You need to be leading. I just have one more little thing to say about that SBIR question. Small Business Innovative Research, for anybody else that is in the call and doesn't know what that is, it's kind of a grant program, everybody. Imagine this. You are calling on an agency and they don't have an answer to a problem that you've uncovered. I'm just throwing this out there. So you go to them and you say, I think you might need this solution, product, whatever. The first grant money is $175,000. I call it phase one. And what you do for that agency is you do research to find out if they truly need a solution. Then phase two, from what I understand, is creating the solution steps, which is $750,000 grant. And then the third step is developing it, and the fourth step is selling it back to the DoD. So that is a grant program that the government uses to try to bring innovative research in. It's used a lot in the Air Force and aerospace. I can tell you because my brother was in that space for a long, long time. He had a company called Mission Research and started with 3 doctorates in aerospace and sold it after he grew it to 600. And he got a lot of their business over 15 years through the SBIR program. You know, they found a pain. They put one person up against $175,000. Then the next phase was $750,000. So they built a little team. Then they had to develop it. They threw more people. So it's kind of a year thing. And if it takes it to the next phase and they actually need it and they actually implement it and they actually use it, it can end up being a lot of business for you. So that's when you're in research and development. But if you already have a product or service that you're ready to sell to the feds, a GSA schedule is pre-approved pricing for you to be able to do that.
John sends us a note that says SBIR and SF phase, $225,000, American seed money.
Oh, thank you. It's probably changed a little bit since my, so $225,000 is the step out. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm going to give this first name a shot. So let me think about it a second. Gestamani, did I say that correctly? We are a commercial painting and plastering company in Nevada. How can I bid on a GSA contract? We are woman-owned, certified.
I can help with that.
First of all, when you do a GSA contract, it's not a bid. It's an application. Why do I say that? Because even though it is an RFP, if you will, request for proposal, you are giving a proposal, but guess who you're competing against? Yourself. Based on your commercial sales practices and where your rates are, whether it be products, services, or whatever, does it fall in what has been developed as the competitive range, which, by the way, is very wide. Bottom line is, whatever you're charging your most favored customer in the world, GSA says, great, treat us as though we are your most favored customer, and we always give them a little token discount. So, Gestamani, contact me after, and maybe we'll do a conference call with Eileen if she has time and kind of get you on the right track. Alan writes, having difficulty finding suppliers that will work with the GSA supply letter template. First of all, Alan, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for being here. You have a 89% chance of being rejected if you can find even one that will give you a letter and you submit. Typically, I end up having to talk with a lot of these suppliers, and I know most of them, depending upon what you're offering. If you're offering building supplies, you just swerved right into my lane and we won't have any problems at all. IT, pretty much the same. And those are the two main ones that everybody's going after. So, Alan, contact me after and we'll have a discussion on it.
I have a quick statement on that too, Michael. If you have a schedule and you want to also use other people's products or supplies, that letter of supply is critical. They might already have their own schedule and they might not want to compete with you on schedule. So there might be a little of that drama going on. Also, they might have a little bit of fear of audit, which you putting their stuff on schedule is going to save them from that. So they might not understand the verbiage on that letter of supply. And that's where a consultant like Mike can explain that to those manufacturers to help clarify. And really, you want them to be as compliant to that letter as possible, because especially to make sure they're TAA compliant, made if it's something that's made in America and there's some resistance there. So Michael can really help you navigate that.
Gestamani, thank you for the kind words. Thank you. You did a great job with my name. I just guessed. That was what we call a swag. You all figure out what swag means. And oh, wait a minute. Got another one. ALOC. I know I said that one right. I'm an IT company. It's not that is not a small business and doesn't have security clearance, but
what opportunities do you see? Well, as Eileen has
That's
already.
a nice question.
Well, hold on a minute. Let me get my my water bottle and see what I can find. Go to beta.sam.gov under contract opportunities and enter your NAICS code. It's a good place to start. After you play around with that for an hour, give me a call later today and we'll have a discussion about it.
Yeah, and I just want to throw out there that when you say IT, we really want to start thinking about what your superpowers are in IT. So if you're a large business for cybersecurity, that needs to be your lane. If you are Drupal programmers, that needs to be your lane. If you're ERP systems, that needs to be your lane. So I also, when you think about, if you looked at it across the board, it's billions and billions and billions of dollars, billions and billions in IT. So we need to find what your specialty lane is. And then also in IT, there's a lot of teaming going on. There's a lot of teaming going on. So there's tons of opportunity it's ridiculous for IT, but really being able to differentiate what's unique about you is going to be critically important to your success in selling to the Fed.
Karina, I got your question here, and of course I'm looking at your last name, which I won't say, but you know the question you've been asked all your life. Any relation? Blanket purchase agreement. What means CLIN and sub-CLIN? CLIN is contract line item number, and subcontract line item number. Is your blanket purchase agreement against your GSA contract? Was it something that you won competitively, open, whichever? Let me know. I'm the number 5th Jones Act Sea Carrier Company. I receive requests by FEMA, but only brings me 2 days to quote a big business project between U.S. and Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. How can I make time to quote? Well, you're asking the wrong guy. You're asking the wrong guy, and Eileen will fill in. If you had a GSA contract, you wouldn't have this problem because you could contact the buyer days ago and say, I can provide that information, that service, that product, whatever it is, today, and save the taxpayers a lot of money as you're going out on this quote. But if it is a quote, it could be just for GSA contract holders. We don't know the full answer there.
I can fill in a little blanks there. So it sounds like to me you say something about you're a vendor already approved with FEMA and you already have a contract available and they're only giving you 48 hours to quote something. Well, one of the things that happens when FEMA sets up an emergency office, everybody. So for example, if there's a disaster, like all the snow that's happening, across, Texas, California, et cetera, let's say they needed to set up an emergency office. They are mandated to set that office up in 48 hours. So the clock ticks from the moment that it's considered a disaster. And if you're someone that needs to supply to that office, they need you to be ready not only just to quote, but ready to deliver. So the concept here for you is to try to sit down with the disaster logistics team or whoever you're serving over there. Get on the cell phone with them. If you already have a contract vehicle set up with them, like you said, you're the 5th vendor, whatever number call you are on their list, create a relationship with the logistics people. And if they tell you something is coming your way, they'll let you know. In the past, I was on selling the FEMA, and what they would do, and I don't know if they do this now, but this is what they did before to prep for disasters. They would line up their vendors January, February, March, and they would number us. So I was in the furniture rental industry at the time, so there would be the first furniture rental company they would turn to, the second one, and the third one. They would have 3 IT vendors, 3 real estate vendors, 3 phone vendors, 3 trucking vendors, right? And what they would do is they would just say, number 1s, go to Houston. And then the next disaster comes up. Number 2s, go to Florida. You know what I'm saying? So we already knew what we needed to deliver months and months before. And we would keep in contact with them whenever a disaster happened. And of course, a disaster always happens with FEMA. You have to deliver on a Sunday. You know, it never fails, or over a holiday. So if you're part of FEMA's team and you're already there with relationships in a contract vehicle, you need to be on the bat phone with your project team and constantly in contact with them, letting them know you're ready to hit it. And if you can't turn a quote around, then you're not ready to serve FEMA, because that's what they expect.
Wonderful. All right. We have is a staffing specialty company. Here's another one. Sean writes, we are a small health system consulting firm. Well, we have one of those. Eileen and I both worked with this woman for almost 3 years now. She does drug rehab counseling, and we got her a GSA contract. And we don't hear from her very often because she's getting rich, and they forget who brought them to the party. So, Sean, we should talk.
I mean, I have a question. Health system consulting, that if you were to tell me, if I were inside the government and you said that to me, the first thing I think of is my veterans go to the VA and they have TRICARE. So I don't know exactly what you're saying that you do. So you need to be more specific about what you do when you tell people what you do. That will help your HR and users and your contracting officers know where you would fit in. So if you were a healthcare consulting company, maybe you might be better served to sell to the vendors that are selling to the feds. So the more detail you can give us, the better consulting we can give you.
Sean writes, we were awarded our contract. Where do we go to get our services out in front of VA hospitals? You mean all 1,300 plus VA hospitals and 500 clinics? Well, I think the person that you need to talk to about that is Eileen. So, Sean, contact me after, and I'll put you in touch with Eileen directly, and you can have her help you get started. This is interesting. Could you email me information later regarding how to locate contracts that my company could fill? I'm a registered vendor. Well, Shelley, I know you are because you got our email because you're registered on SAM. So again, go to beta.sam.gov and go to contracting opportunities, put in your NAICS code, and then knock yourself out trying to bid and win, or take the easy route. And you know what I'm going to say next, get a GSA contract. Or build relationships as early as possible and don't waste your time on blind bids you never heard of before they've been posted. If it's posted, it's probably too late, my friends. Always too late. It's already wired and somebody's already sitting there saying, oh, they wrote the specs that we gave them. Diana writes, hello, we're a national NGO receiving receiving non-government organization. Yeah, that's it. Receiving funding from the state government, saying that DUNS will turn to SAMMI, and we will move to beta, and when we do this, all kinds of stuff here. First of all, you can't get deleted because Dun and Bradstreet got fired. Okay, so I would pass this information on to your state people and ask them what's up. What's the advantage of going in a hub zone? There's a whole video we did on that. That'll take an hour. Go watch the video. I believe Eileen was in on that one also. And, if you know what hub zone means, historically underutilized business zone. And if that's where you are, that's great. Diana says, sorry, meant state government. Okay. And corrected me. That's good. Non-government. Hey, I never used those acronyms. I was in DC for 33 years and we had what was called embedded acronyms like SAMMI, things like that. Diana says State Department, not government. Oh, State Department, whole different ballgame. Alvin says, I'm a beginner, only 3 months on the system. If you want a free consultation, Alvin, go on to our website, website and set up a free consult. Be more than happy to spend some time with you. Natalie is a small R&D company that develops advanced chemical sensing systems for NASA and DoD. For over 20 years, we have been NASA's go-to for hydrogen sensing systems. Most of our business is through SBIR contracts. Do you recommend becoming AS 9001 certified, aerospace version of ISO certification before applying for and I'm assuming the rest of that's going to say GSA contract. First of all, do it all at once, okay? I get people come to me and say, well, we want to get a GSA contract, but we want to get our 8A first. I said, you mean if you get your 8A first? Get your GSA contract if you're an 8A while you're doing the 8A certification. As soon as the 8A certification comes through, we do a mod to add your 8A certification, your woman-owned certification, veteran-owned certificate, whatever it is, we add that to your contract. Sean is pharmacy operations consultant. Well, that's definitely down the VA line along with all the military bases. Rich says, we're a GSA 78 contract holder and sell promotional products. I've had problems adjusting our prices. That requires a conversation, my friend. Rich, contact me after and we'll sit down with Eileen and we'll talk about it. I got an idea what you're talking about, but I don't want to confuse the organization here. I'm going to finally get to slide 15 of 19. Isn't that beautiful? Formatted price tool, which is what it really is. When I first looked at it, it was called the formatted price list. GSA has killed it, which kind of really upsets me because it was doing away with SIP. They did it for 3 contracts on a pilot. They were smaller contracts or schedules, I should say, and it didn't really work out the way they wanted it. Gee, let me guess why. Who invented it? So it's gone as of September 18th, which I was preaching it because it would have made my life so much easier because of the advanced database and spreadsheet work that we do for our clients. Pitch day funding. Eileen, what the heck is this?
So I bet a lot of you have seen the show Shark Tank, where they get judges and they line them up and they have money and they're able to negotiate with people that do pitch days. And sometimes if you're in the IT world, if you're a startup, you get involved in these pitch days looking at your VCs, venture capitalists, trying to get some money out of them to build your business. So what's not just the Air Force, but several of the agencies DoD agencies are trying to create some excitement for the Silicon Valley people and the research people. Think about it. The Silicon Valley people are used to doing a pitch and getting $32 million handed to them by a VC, right? But you need to also understand that these pitch days that happen, what they do is kind of put out kind of a contest. We're going to have a pitch day. If you have an idea, you have a product, you have a software, and you think that we could use it, apply by this date. So what the vendors do is they kind of send in their capabilities, what their idea is, et cetera. And then they're shortlisted to a smaller group and then shortlisted again to a smaller group. And then they get in front of these Shark Tank type buyers and they make their pitch to them. And right on site, the buyers put money into their accounts and make a purchase right there. But when this is announced, usually we find out about it like after the pitch day is over. The Air Force just spent $40 million today in a pitch day. And it sounds like these, young companies just walked in off the street, did their pitch, and was handed money. You must know that it's like going to American Idol. There's an audition process. There's preparations happening, because how in the world could they send money right into their bank accounts if they didn't already have that information on their desk? But what they're basically doing is really creating excitement in the younger, innovative industries they're trying to really attract Silicon Valley and new ideas and new excitement, because they have been hammered over the head with you're making it too hard for us inventors to bring you what we do. And it's too hard to sell to the feds. Make it easier, make it easier. So they're doing these really exciting days for big PR points. $40 million in the government, if you really think about it, is not that much money. During this meeting, in the 60 minutes we've been here, they've probably spent $40 million. Someone has. So it goes by pretty quickly, but it makes it exciting to make these young companies come in and pitch. What I say is, yes, that's exciting, but if you've got a new idea, you've got a solution to solve, you want to sit down with someone, you just need to get in front of the right people and start talking to people. If they really latch on to what you have to offer, you're going to get money. But it's up to you to make that happen. These are just some fun PR ways. Like I said, it's almost like a TV show, but it's an event. And each of the areas of the DoD are looking at ways to do these kind of things to keep the up-and-coming businesses engaged.
John's got a question. It says, your presentation of the ease to a pitch day is incorrect. What it does is shorten the buying cycle, and in IT, that life cycle. What are you saying? What you're saying is wrong as to being rigged. We have gone through this. Not true. The fact that they were able to bring product to market in less than a year under that. Well, anyway, that's.
I'm not saying that it's rigged. I'm not saying that it's rigged. I'm just saying that the people that go to these days don't just show up for the first time and they win money. They've got to be rehearsed. They've got to have the right information ready to go. They've got to be prepped. They've got to know what they're saying is right and what the pain is at the government. They're just not cold. Can't be.
Well,
so I appreciate
it has
your
to be
feedback.
that way because they already have my bank account info to put the money in right on the spot.
Right. But I really appreciate your feedback because maybe you were one of those who won, and maybe, Mike, you can have a breakout meeting with this person and let them share their pitch day experience. So I'm not saying anything's rigged. I never agree with the concept of rigged. People are prepared, though, when they go to these meetings. It's not, hi, I just got in and I'm presenting this cold. There's no way, at least the ones who won, there's no way they went in cold. They know that there's a pain they can solve. But if you won and you have feedback on that, I highly recommend you do a breakout session with Michael and tell us more about it. That would be awesome.
Thanks for the question, John. Moving on. Cybersecurity. This one came from nowhere. As of December 6th, whole new authentication plan. And in a nutshell, I can't even begin to do it justice. Eileen knows a little bit more about it, but to do it justice, it basically trying to get better, big deal, cybersecurity, to get better ways of preventing you from being hacked if you're working on a government contract. Is the very, very short version. I'm not doing it justice, but the document is, I think, 190 pages. So that'll give you plenty of good reading.
I have something to say about the CMMS. I highly recommend that if there's anybody on LinkedIn you can connect with that knows about CMMS, the large businesses are definitely being pushed to be, certified. And they're being pressured to make sure their small businesses that they're using as subcontractors are too. So this is something that Michael and I are not experts at CMM, that certification. And at some point, we'll be able to bring forward people that we know that might be able to help you. But in the meantime, that's one that you need to keep your ear to the ground because not only do you need to be protected, you need to be able to protect the data that you're working on with the government and your client. So if you're in the supply chain, they need to make sure that systems are secure. So I would just say, everybody, keep your ear to the ground on that one. It's going to be, I would imagine, it could be a make it or break it for some companies if you're not certified.
John, your second to last message always welcome feedback, and I really enjoy being called on things, because I might tell you that 1 and 1 is 2, but while I was telling you that, it became 3, and I have no way of knowing that. So,
Michael, can I just do while people are typing things in? Let me just give a quick overview. If I were to have the top takeaways for myself from this meeting. Number 1, if you're on GSA schedule, make sure that when you get that mass mod sent over to you, that you make sure that at gsa.gov is whitelisted on your email, so you don't miss that email and you accept that mod right away. If you get a new GSA schedule number or a new link to where your products are being listed, get that link on your website, get it on your CAPE statement, hot link it to your GSA schedule, put it at the end of your emails right away. The CMMI, that certification, stay in front of that. Know your other contract vehicles besides GSA schedule, so that you understand if the buyers are using GWACs or job order contractors or IDIQs or BPAs, things that are not on GSA schedule. That's something you need to know and understand and embrace. Beta.sam.gov is where the new bids from FBO are appearing. Coming down the pipeline, the Federal Procurement Data System will also be over in the beta.sam in 2020. That's coming. And as always, you've got Michael or myself here for you. If you need anything, you're welcome to give us a call or link up with us on LinkedIn. Have a sidebar conversation to educate us more on what you might know more about one of these subjects that we covered, and you want to share it with people. We're all about it, so I would write an article about it and share it if you want. So if you've got a lot more to share than what we've provided here, you're 10 times smarter than me on a particular subject like CMMI or something like that, let us know. Stay on top of the SAMMI, the Duns versus Ernst & Young number, the management identifier. Stay on top of that as well. Those are some of the top headlines to stay in front of for 2020.
William, I'm going to do some research on the Veteran Small Business Enhancement Act, and stay in touch with me. Lisa, and I forgot to tell everybody this, as soon as we get off of here and clear all the phone calls that are backing up, I will get the editing done, and we'll get it up on the website, which takes you right over to YouTube, and you'll be good to go. I think we're done here. I've run out of questions, which I've never had that many questions in my life. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful new year. And we did talk about in the email a tax savings. Those of you who are thinking about burning money for the end of the year, Eileen and I are sitting here ready, willing, and highly capable of helping you. Again, Happy New Year to everyone. Eileen, thank you for spending the day with us, and we'll see you all on our next broadcast.
Thank you for having me, Michael, and thank you for setting up this forum for all of us. And thank you, everybody. Great to meet you. Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2020. Go get them.
We hope you enjoyed today's broadcast. If you did, please consider giving us a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And as always, thank you for watching.